Are you thinking of coming to Zambia and starting up a farm? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 crops that can be cash crops here and what size of a plot you need to actually get started. Hey, Jason here. If you've been watching the channel, you've been seeing me as I've been going through this nomad journey for the last 9 years. I'm now on my 3rd continent, 4th country, which is Zambia. And one of the things I started doing was sharing some of the tips and tricks I've learned along the way, along with sharing with you what are some of the opportunities that I'm seeing here in the southern region of Africa. So let's go ahead and get into today's video. So I was asked a question on a previous video on what are some crops that you would actually use to become profitable in farming. And so these are the crops that I would use. First crop is maize. Maize is one of the staples of this SADC region. They eat something that is called pop, enshima, millie meal. And what it is to us in America, it's closely related to grits, but it's not exactly the same thing. It is a cornmeal type, it's a cornmeal substance, but it comes in different variant sizes on the way that they mill it. And so this is a staple that people in this region eat a lot. I believe it even goes all the way up to Nigeria and maybe even Ghana. It may be a complete African staple. So actually farming maize is very profitable here. And here in Zambia, well, in Lusaka, let me speak of, this year we had a very bad drought. And so majority of the maize crops did not produce. And so there's actually a shortage right now of millie meal and things of that nature in the country. And so anyone who comes and starts up a farm that has a very reliable water source to where they're not relying on the rainy season, that will be able to produce you a good amount of money, especially in case if this drought continues, which we don't know. Now, the second one is actually more of a drought-resistant crop. This is onions. Onions are really good. Like, let's be honest, everybody usually eats onions. And so because they are a high vegetarian country, so if you just saw the lights went off, that's a load shedding, guys. When the load actually cuts off, let me just hit this up so it's not beeping through the entire video. Okay, so I'm back and I apologize for that. But I'm glad that this happened on video and on camera so you can start seeing like what are some of the hardships of why you're living in Africa. The load shedding of the grid is one of those things that you're going to have to get used to if you start coming here. And so onions is one of those that is a very good crop also. And one of the things about onions, they are drought resistant, meaning they don't take as much water to produce as maize does. So that's why you want to do onions. Tomatoes. Tomatoes is another crop. Every morning there are truckloads of tomatoes coming from the farms in Chongwei up to the city for the markets to be sold. This is every day. And we're talking about truckloads of maybe 100 to 200 pails of tomatoes. So those are other crops that you can actually make money off of. And then outside of that, cabbage. Cabbage grows really well here. And cabbage is something that the supermarkets run out of a lot. So remember here, if you get into farming and if you can produce a steady supply consistently, you can still work and get into the actual supermarkets here, such as ShopRite, not Cheers. Yes, it is called Cheers. I'm sorry, Cheers, Choppies. All of those you can get into, and plus probably get to local markets and supply them. And then one of the last crops that you can actually grow is bell peppers. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, the bell peppers, when they have them in stock, they're in stock. But when they're out, and you just don't know when they're going to come back. So that is one of those crops that is selling all the time in the supermarkets. And it's one of those things that they're just not consistently being stocked up on. And so those are the 5 crops that will actually do good as cash crops here in Zambia. And now for the last part of this response to the question, what would be the typical land size that you would need to start a farm? Now, if you're coming from the US, even maybe the UK, you may be thinking of farmland as you need this vast hectares or acres of land where it needs to be so big, you need all this factory farming. You do not need that here. One of the beautiful things about Zambia, they are probably the best in the world at actual community gardens. You can see them take a very small plot of land, just sitting on the side of the street, and they can turn it into a thriving garden. And so, like, if you want to actually do a farm, let's say we just want to do tomatoes, onions, or potatoes, I would say start out with a 20 meter by 20 meter plot. That's not very big at all. It's enough to build a single family home on there and maybe have a little parking structure, a little paved parking way for you to park your cars. That little structure can produce a lot of produce per square meter. And so don't think you have to go out and buy acres and acres and acres of land or hectares, which is what they use here. And so you can start out with meter plots. And so I hope that I hope that answered your question. If you have any more comments or questions, leave them down below. If you're in Zambia or in another African country and you have been in farming or know how to do farming, leave some information down below to let people know how they can do it. One of the things that I believe in for 2024 and moving forward, we need to be focused on more collaboration and not being in competition. The gatekeeping of information, it's time for that to stop. And so one of the things that collaboration is going to do is going to make it a lot simpler and easier for people to start their transition over to the motherland. But most importantly, it's going to make us be able to build together. And make sure you watch the video that I'm going to put out in the future on why we should be building together instead of building alone. And so if you have any other questions or comments, just leave them down below. I will get back to them. And just remember this, I'm Jason, and success is simple once you know how.